composting is a great rewarding activity, and essentially what we're doing is we're creating food to feed our veggies. Composting could be complex. I could do a whole course on composting itself, but truthfully it doesn't have to be hard and it doesn't have to be complex. I like to keep things simple because to me composting to a gardener is a bit like dough is to a baker. It's really easy and it's like making dough. Ratio between dry and wet material. All of the brown dry stuff provides the carbon and all the green waste provides the nitrogen, and the secret to a healthy compost is getting that ratio right and working together. And the general rule of thumb is to use 2/3 brown waste, so 2/3 carbon, and 1/3 green, so 1/3 nitrogen. Green waste material includes things such as your fruit and veggie scraps, grass clippings, lawn clippings, garden weeds, flowers, shrubs, you name it, chicken manure, coffee grounds. I would recommend that you don't use meat or pet products because they can attract rodents as well and be a little bit on the nose. And then you've got all your brown waste, so we're looking at things like dry leaves, straw, hay, pine needles, dried seaweed, wood ash, newspaper, shredded cardboard, sawdust. They're all the things that you can add. And in this case, what I like to refer to brown being the flour in my garden dough versus the wet, the green stuff, which is the water. Now, when it comes to composting as well, there's aerobic and there's anaerobic composting. They're two different categories. They've got different microorganisms within to consume and decompose the organic matter. Those that need oxygen in an aerobic, and those that don't need oxygen in an anaerobic system. Now, most people in your back garden, those big green bins that you've got, now that's an aerobic system. And it's what I'll outline here because it's what I use. It's what I think the majority of people, that's all they need to do. Essentially, that's what they are, the ones that you purchase from a hardware store. You could make it yourself. I've used here as an example, you can sort of see it back behind there, over that way. That's just some old pallets. Quite often what happens with most people is that their compost is either too dry or too wet. In many cases it's too dry. You need to add the hose. Just grab the hose, put it in the compost and give it a good water. Where it's too moist and it's wet, and quite often you can tell because it's stinky, it's on the nose, okay, means that you've got too much wet material, so too much nitrogen, so too many food scraps. You need to add dry material. That's why I always like to keep a bag of pea straw or sugarcane mulch, something next to the compost bin to add to it. Again, if I'm making dough, it gets too dry, I need to add water, and if it's too wet, I've got to add more flour. So the flour again being the brown stuff. If in the case that you get lots of flying insects, again, they're small little flies, they're naturally attracted to your compost pile. They're little fungus gnats. They're very common in your compost as they feed on the decomposing matter. Simply make a simple trap to get rid of them. Is to make sure that your compost is covered. Just make sure that none of the exposed fruit and vegetables, so you just put some straw or brown material over the top so it's not exposed. Composting, there you have it. It's pretty simple. Don't try and overcomplicate it.